The Woodrow Wilson Foundation is based out of New Jersey. It was founded back during World War II when the government turned to the foundation, or turned to Princeton University, and the foundation was created because we didn't have enough professors on campus to teach some of the soldiers coming back through the GI Bill. So that's actually kind of how it got started, and since then Woodrow Wilson has taken on multiple education issues that our country has had challenges around. And that's how this program really kind of started out. We know that we have issues within the number of students who are interested and committed into science, math, technology, engineering. And so there was a reach out done on a state-by-state basis, and Indiana was actually the first state to respond, saying, come to our state, let's try to build a program where we can get motivated teachers into our classroom, into our public school classrooms. And we found partners like Purdue University here, who we would work with in both looking at how they would train and educate the cohorts, the fellows, but also then have them very, very involved in the community and in the school systems, in the local, in this case, rural school systems. So this is our 6th year. This is our 6th class, and Purdue was right on board at the very, very beginning and had as cohorts from our very first class. So we have we're very, very excited about the fact that Indiana was the first. We've added now Ohio, Michigan, New Jersey, and soon we'll be adding Georgia. But thanks to the Lilly Endowment, that's the money that we have had provided to us to help make this program run. We are looking, as you probably maybe overheard some of our conversations, this is high recruiting season for us as we're out talking to campuses, and also we get about 50% who are coming from college and about 50% who what we call career changers. So we have 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 50-year-olds potentially who could be part of your cohort group. So it's an exciting merger of both young and experienced people like Candace. And ultimately, we also try to make a fellow part of a larger group. You obviously would be part of your Purdue group, but then we'd also like to make sure that you're also part of the other universities that have cohorts. And you may have actually overheard, every 2 years we have a national meeting of the fellows where we bring together all of the fellows from the other states and Indiana in some location at our cost to bring you together from a sharing process. So we're very excited about what we've been able to build here, and we hope to continue to build that not only in Indiana but throughout the country. Stop there.
Yeah, thanks, Eric. So here at Purdue, our goal is we want to produce highly qualified STEM teachers for rural schools. We're the only program in the state, I think in the nation, that really focuses on developing teachers for rural areas. So hopefully you like living in the country and you like working in the country. That's why you're here. And we teach STEM using problem-based approaches with rural linkages. In other words, we think that you just can't stand up and lecture like I'm lecturing to you right now anymore, that you really got to involve kids in the work. And so we will train you to do that. And we expect you to do that when you get out into the schools. So that's pretty much what we're all about. Now, share a little bit about our program, and I thought I would do this about, I have some questions that I think if I were in your shoes I would ask. So I'll ask myself those questions and I'll answer them, but if you have more questions along the way, then that would be cool if you shared those with us. So what does your year look like? So you're going to go through an admittance process, and we'll know who you are in the spring. All those are accepted. And the preparation, your teaching preparation, begins in June. And you take a pretty full load through the summer. So you're going to be involved in class from June pretty much through the 1st of August. And you get a short break and you'll come back and we'll have you scheduled for another heavy load of classes. But 2 days a week during that whole first semester, you're going to spend 2 full days in the classroom in a rural school. And a lot of the experiences that you'll have there, your teachers will tie experiences in your classes to what you're doing in the building. So, and part of it is we want you to learn how to sit down and work with kids and work with other adults in school and get a real feel for what schools are all about. Second semester, during the first 6 weeks, again, for 2 full days a week, you're going to be in the schools. You're going to be working with kids and working with the teachers. And then back here on campus, the other 3 days, you're going to take a pretty heavy load of classes. And that'll be your methods classes, and we'll have some classroom management classes and all those kinds of things that you'll be involved in. And then the last 10 weeks of the second semester, you'll be in the schools 5 days a week. That's when you're going to do your student teaching. So that's pretty much an overview of what the school looks like. I think you have a piece of paper in your handouts if you want to get a picture of what are the individual classes that you're taking. We've got that, and you're welcome to ask us questions about those later. So the other question you might ask is, how am I placed in the clinicals? The clinicals is what we call being out in the schools 2 days a week and doing that student teaching 5 days a week. And I'll sit down and I'll interview you. We'll sit and we'll have a talk, and I'll try to find out what your needs are, what kinds of things may block you from going to certain parts of our encasement area, what kind of flexibility you have in terms of developing where you're going to go in terms of your clinicals. And we'll just sit and have a conversation, because I need to know you and know your challenges and know what kind of opportunities you're thinking about down the road. And then I will go out to several of our partner schools and I'll begin to line up those clinicals. For example, if you're in biology, some of you will be in biology, I always check with Dave here, because Dave knows where the good biology veterans are and where the veterans are that we probably don't want you working with, because it would set bad examples for you. And the math people, we've got a pretty good idea of where they're at. We've got some really 2 top-notch chemistry people we like to place people with around. So we have a pretty good feel of where the better people are for you to work with. And so based on the interview, based upon what's out there, we'll pair you up. And so the advantage that's a little different for you, you've been in those schools 2 full days a week, all through the first semester, first 6 weeks of the second semester, and so you're pretty much ready to take off when you do your student teaching, where the others have to work their way into it, because you've been in the buildings, you know the kids, you know the rules, you know all the ins and outs of the building, so you get a head start of doing that. And then you come back the following summer, and we work at trying to cover all those things and make sure that you're ready when you have that first job, when you begin the next fall. So you'll conclude right around August 1st of that second summer, and we want to get done by August 1st, because right after that, a lot of the places where you work will have orientation, and they'll want you on the job in those orientation sessions. So that's what it looks like. Now, you have a 3-year commitment to teaching when you participate in the program. Obviously, it has to be in Indiana. It has to be in a high-needs school. And there are federal definitions of rural, and we look at those schools where they're either Title I schools, which is a federal program, or their feeder schools are Title I schools. And obviously, it needs to be in a rural community. So the next question, if I were you, and I'm thinking, I'm going to go through this, how am I going to find a job? Well, you're going to look, but we're going to help you look. And I can tell you right now, let's see, I think we're in the 3rd year in a row where we've had 100% placement. But as I'm out and I meet with principals and superintendents and teachers right now, I think this is going to be a good couple years coming up. A lot of people are still going to retire. There's an emphasis on science and mathematics, so a few more people are going to be needed. So I think the prospects are looking good. Now, as part of your classroom experience, we're going to help you put together a letter of introduction. We're going to help you with your resume. We'll send you to some people that are going to critique your resume and your letter of introduction. You'll do a great one, and they'll tear it all to shreds and make you feel bad. But their whole deal is they want to help you be as perfect and as ready to go as they can. And then you'll do a verbal presentation that'll become part of a catalog of our fellows that we send out to people, so they can see you on paper and they can hear what you're all about. And so we'll have that ready to go. And then as part of your classroom work, we'll bring you in one at a time and you'll participate in a mock interview where we'll critique your interview skills. And then we're going to show you where the job listings are so that you can constantly check those. And I will talk with you again and I will try to figure out where do you want to end up in what part of the state. Because there are a lot of job openings that Dave gets a phone call or I get a phone call. They're never advertised. That we just learn about them by word of mouth or people call us and ask for applicants. And we'll share those with you so that you'll have the advantage to get your materials in and have an advantage there. But you have to apply. And you have to win these jobs. And we're here to help you get ready to do that. So, now, as part of getting ready to teach, then as you go through this program, you get that job, we're going to support you during your first 3 years on the job. So that first year, Dr. Weller, who's worked with several cohorts, is a generalist, and she will coach you through that first year. And she's there to, during the first year, you'll have issues with time management, you'll have issues with classroom management, because everybody in the history of teaching's had those issues when they have that first year on the job. But we're here to coach you and help you through that. She'll be there to answer your questions. Many times she'll be there just to listen. And another part of what she does during that first year is she helps you prepare your portfolio for your master's degree. And Dave will talk about that in a little bit. Your second year, we have a content area coach. So if you're a biology person or a science person, we'll have a content person who knows their science, who will come out and have weekly contact with you. They'll visit you on the job. And during that year, we want to cover issues specific to teaching your content. We have the same thing for math, so that's available. And then during year 3, we support you by giving you the opportunity to apply for a grant. So you're going to put together at the end of that second year a professional improvement plan, and we're going to help you fund that professional improvement plan with a grant. And then you go through those activities and tell us how it went. So that's our obligation to you for your first 3 years out on the job, because we know those are the toughest. We get you through those, you're well on your way. So part of our program is you're also working on a master's degree. So Dave, you want to share a little bit about that?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. In addition to being a faculty member who's been part of the STEM Goes Rural program since it started here at Purdue, right now I'm also the person who helps to oversee the master's component of the program. So as John was saying, the first year that you're here in the program, you're here on campus for a good part of that. We're helping you develop the skills and the knowledge that you need to earn your teaching license and get you ready to get into your first full-time job. But another really important component of the STEM Goes Rural program here is during the first 2 years, so including the first year on campus and then that first year that you're also full-time teaching, by the end of that second year, you can earn a master's degree through Purdue in our College of Education in science education. And so much of the coursework that you're doing during that first year will contribute to the master's degree. Your experiences during your first year of full-time teaching and some online coursework that you'll do during that year will also contribute to the master's degree. And then a culminating project that we ask you to do is put together a portfolio. And this is a compilation of work that you've done, examples of either work that you've done here on campus or examples of work that you're doing in your own classroom during that first year to help demonstrate how you're meeting a set of competencies, or if you want to call them standards, that we have for all master's students here. And so typically at the end of the summer of that, right after your first full year of teaching, is when you would come back to campus. You would have already identified a committee of faculty members, just like anybody else doing a master's degree here at Purdue would do, and you do a defense of your portfolio. You present that portfolio to your committee for evaluation. And upon successful completion of that, then you've earned a master's degree in addition to already having your teaching license. So I think this is one of the unique components of the way that this program is constructed, is that while it might seem like the licensure or the earning the teaching license is one piece and the master's component is a separate piece, in fact, while you're going through those first 2 years, you're actually working towards accomplishing both of those parts of the program.
So we've talked at you a little bit.
Yeah.
So now it's fair for you to ask us questions. And you know, when you're thinking about career change and maybe doing something a little different than what you originally intended to do, all questions are fair. So you ask us questions.
How many people do you guys admit into your guys' program?
I think we can go up to 15, as I recall. Yeah.
So I'm a senior in biology, and I was planning on getting a PhD, and now I'm kind of looking at other options, especially since in the long run I'd like to be involved in higher education or science communication or science policy or something that combines the human aspect with the science. Would this be a good program? Like a good stepping stone for that? Or is this just for people that want to teach in high school for their whole life?
If I can use my own personal example, and I think it might help answer your question too. When I was an undergraduate, I majored in biology. I was studying at a small liberal arts college in upstate New York. That's where I grew up. And when I was approaching my senior year as an undergraduate, I was trying to figure out what's next. Sound familiar? And I knew that I didn't really want to go into a graduate program at the time. I was not ready to go into business and industry with my degree. And so I took a similar kind of a path, that is to teacher licensure. I joined the Peace Corps, and I was a high school biology and chemistry teacher for a number of years. As a result of that experience, being a high school biology and chemistry teacher, it led me to ultimately becoming a faculty member here at Purdue. It helped me decide that, number one, working in the field of biological sciences was really important, but I didn't have to be a bench researcher to do that. There were other options that were possible. Number two, I had an opportunity to not only be a teacher, but I had a chance to work with other teachers and help to prepare teachers, and which ultimately led me to now being a faculty member, both in the biology department here at Purdue, but also in the College of Education. So, story short, I think this kind of a program can give you not only the opportunity to experience what it's like to be a classroom teacher for a number of years, but I think it opens the door to a lot of other opportunities as well. Whether you want to continue with that particular career path or move on into academia at the university level or something like that too. Yeah.
And if I could add to that, and I know you all came in, I'm with Woodrow Wilson, and I would also tell you that getting a Woodrow Wilson fellowship is not easy. You have to be selected. You become part of a very, very large group of people who are MacArthur Award winners, Pulitzer Prize winners. We have an Academy Award winner. I mean, we have a lot of people that, as you think about your career, having the Woodrow Wilson Fellow on your resume could certainly carry some weight.
Questions? Your turn to ask questions.
I don't have one. I'm trying to think of one.
If you didn't pick up one of these cards, it is nice, and just on the back of the card, it does do the breakdown that John just described as far as the bullets at the bottom as to what you would receive when you become and are selected as a fellow. So not only are the other materials specific to Purdue World, you didn't pick up some of these, but this free card sometimes is nice to have. And I guess the point that I was just making to you over here, the lifelong membership in a national network of intellectual leaders. And we also talked briefly before I think you came in, the whole idea of, we tried to bring the cohorts. You obviously become a family of cohorts that have now gone through 5 classes of cohorts here. This will be our 6th class at Purdue. So you've got that family. You then become part of an Indiana family with the other universities and their cohorts. And then nationally, we meet every other year and bring the other states together as well. So there's a sharing process, there's a family process that starts at Purdue and grows.
Questions? Sure.
A number of questions. I've been on the website and I see that there are a few schools in the Indiana area that participate in this fellowship. Just trying to understand, are you able to, if you're accepted and you go out to teach, I know that the Purdue website specifically speaks to teaching in rural schools. Is that specific to Purdue? If I wanted to do urban teaching, would I need to look at some of the other universities? How does that work?
Yeah, I think if you want to look at urban teaching, then I would look at IUPUI or look at the University of Indianapolis.
And
I'm partial
Valparaiso
to
is now on board
Purdue.
as
I was a
well.
Purdue graduate, so
Sure.
would love to come back. But those are the schools that cater
Yes.
more towards the urban.
That's correct. Other questions?
So would, as a biology major, would I only be teaching biology, or would it just be whatever the school needs me to teach?
That's a good question, because we've had two biology majors that found a job in a small rural district, and I can tell you their schedule. They teach 7th and 8th grade science. They have a couple sections of biology, they have a section of chemistry, and they have a section of physics. They are the science teacher for the building. And that'll happen because we have some small high schools, especially in the southern part of the state, where that will be the case. There are other fellows that they teach 5 sections of biology 1. So it depends on what school that you get into, but that would give you an idea of the range, I would think, that we're looking at. Chemistry, now I can tell you, right before school started last year, I had 7 requests for chemistry teachers, and I don't think any of them got filled by us. I'm not sure if they got filled, period.
It's very needed.
But it is needed, but you'll probably have to teach another subject along with chemistry.
I'm good at physics too, so.
Well, physics is a good natural thing. And then this ICP, Integrated Chemistry and Physics, a lot of schools are offering that particular class right now, so you might find yourself in that.
Now, what is the, I guess, the geographical range that while you're here attending this program that you might be expected to travel? Like, would you have to travel almost down to Cincinnati sometimes at a rural school down there?
For your clinicals,
Yeah.
we try to stay within an hour of campus. Now, this year we have one fellow that's about an hour and 45 minutes away, but he lives on the other side of that. That's his home area. So we've kind of placed it, and he has a girlfriend up there too. So we've kind of placed him up in that part of the state. But for everybody else, we try to keep you within an hour of campus.
But when you get later on after the clinicals, when you're working, you could work basically anywhere in the state.
I think we can show you a map. We have them all the way from the northern border to the southern border, from the west side to the east side, and all points in between.
Do you want the employment or the partnerships?
The employment one. Yeah. There's where our fellows are at right now. So you see we have some down in Lanesville, which would be just north of the river a little bit. We have some in a charter school up near the Gary area, Highland. We have one at Greenwood over in the upper right-hand corners at DeKalb High School. Over on the west side or east side of the state, that would be at Winchester. So we've got them all over. Questions?
Now, I'm actually thinking about applying for the 2015 semester because I'm working towards, I had contacted people earlier about what would be needed before I would even be considered. And so my question is that they told me the certain math classes that they're looking for. Now, would there be additional math classes that would be needed for the master's degree? Or would those kind of 5 classes that they're like, okay, if you have these 5, you can be considered for the degree? Would that be kind of where we're at, and then we just focus on the
Yeah, the math department will sit down and look at what math classes you've had and what grades you received in those math classes. Now, I can tell you about 90% of all our math people, the math department wants them to take our geometry class.
So it might be beneficial, because 3 of them are the upper divisions, and I would have to go to a university like Purdue. So if I kind of just took those classes here,
You
that
know,
would be
my
beneficial.
best advice to you would be someday come in and talk with a lady named Dr. Jill Newton. She's in charge of our math education, and Jill could sit down with you and say, look, here are the classes, because the math department will look at your transcript, and she'll say, here are the classes that the math department's going to look at. That would help you out.
And then you were asking about additional classes as part of the master's program. Often those classes will be, rather than being math content classes, excuse me, very often they would be math teaching, math education related classes
Focus on
at the
that.
graduate level. Yeah.
Questions? Just ask away. We're here for you.
I have my undergraduate in engineering, so I've had a little bit of everything, a lot of math, chemistry, physics. I was an industrial engineer, so pretty much all the engineering curriculums. So, and it's been about 12 years since I've been in the workforce. As I'm trying to just wrap my mind around the process of going back to school, where exactly do I start? If I'm interested in math, which is what I think that would be my focus, is there something that I should do in preparation to entering this type of program?
Yeah, I think I'd sit down with Dr. Newton and have a talk with her and just bring in a copy of your transcript so she can look it over.
Even though I was 20 years old.
Yeah.
20 plus.
Yeah, you know, part of math's been around for a few thousand years. But yeah, I'd have her look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't think, I wouldn't let the fact that the transcript might be a little older dissuade you from doing that, because we've had a number of fellows who have come through this program here who have been career changers. Their university education happened quite a while ago. And yet, through their professional experiences, of course, they're still getting updated in their professional content areas. So I think John's advice is really good, that meet with a faculty member here, specifically in math, and let her help you figure out what it is that you've done, how what you've done will match up with the requirements here at Purdue, and see what kinds of things, what kinds of gaps there might be there too.
And we did mention at the very beginning, about half of our class is career changers and about half come fresh off campuses. So we have a lot of career changers. So,
Anyone have questions? We're here for you.
When is the application due?
it's a rolling application process. So the website would tell you the final deadline is the end of January.
But the sooner the better.
Sooner the better, because we'll evaluate those. We actually had our first cutoff. They're evaluating those applicants now, and those, there will be people who will be accepted into the program. We'll meet with the university that they've identified and will become part of the class and can start to make their plans. The sooner the better, really, as far as you're concerned, I'm sure, too, because as John mentioned, we start classes in June.
Questions? Even if it's just on your mind, moving around back there, you should ask that.
I think the other, I would throw out to you as well, I know John and Dr. Moon have talked to me. I mean, if you would like to speak with a Purdue fellow, that can, we can make that happen. Purdue can make that happen. Either, one that's out in the teaching and profession and part of the early class, or one that's going through school right now. I mean, if that would be helpful to you, we can make any of that happen for you.
I will send, if everyone signs in with their email, I can send information to you, all of our contact information, and then you can get back to us of what you need or what you would like, and then you can go from there. So be sure to give us your email.
The 3-year commitment, that begins in year 2 when you're full-time teaching, or after the second year?
It's actually a 4-year commitment, if you just
Okay.
want to start and picture it. It's the 1 year where you're going to school at Purdue, and then you have a 3-year commitment to teach in a public school in Indiana.
Okay.
And then at that point on. Now, you might be curious, we actually had our first class, the Purdue first class, and the other universities, they finished their 3rd year last May, June, whenever school came out. We had 97% stay in teaching. So we were very, very pleased, I think, as all of us, all of our university partners, and Woodrow Wilson was certainly very pleased. 97% is a very strong number. But they were free at that point in time, their commitment to Indiana. I know we have at least a couple who left Indiana to go into teaching, but have done that. And others have said, you know, this was a great experience, and maybe to the earlier point, and I'm going to try something else. 97% are still teaching in public school.
What questions do you have about going into teaching? Because it is a career change. It's more than just this program. If you have questions about that, don't hesitate to ask.
I guess it's just been so long since I've been in high school. I don't know, what kind of level would you be expected or allowed to, you know, teach at? Like, I'm guessing that like an AP biology or AP chem class probably wouldn't be offered in these smaller schools.
They're there.
Okay.
Well, I think you're going to see a lot of variability. First of all, when you receive your license, excuse me, through the Purdue program, you're going to get a license for secondary teaching, and by definition, that means grades 5 through 12. So in fact, you'll be eligible to teach at both the middle school or junior high school level as well as the high school level. You'll have that full range of options. And while you're going through the coursework here at Purdue, especially for your student teaching placement, if you have a real strong preference for either middle school or for high school or some combination of those, especially at the rural schools where physically the middle school or junior high is, if not in the same building, they're right next to each other, we can make arrangements so that you'll have an opportunity to get experience at both of those different levels. At the rural schools, again, depending, you could see the full range of course offerings from the introductory biology at the high school level all the way up through the AP biology too. So I wouldn't necessarily make a prejudgment about, oh, a rural school's not going to be able to teach AP. I don't think that's really fair.
I didn't mean that in a negative.
No, I know.
Yeah. And is there kind of like, after you've been there for a year or you're on your third year, would there be some flexibility to say, hey, I think there's enough students that would be interested in an AP class. Could I start teaching that?
That's a local decision.
Okay, that's not anything to do with us. Okay. Sorry, I don't know.
You can bring it up. That a lot of people start classes because a teacher had an interest and brought it up. It just may take a while to get it started, especially in the smaller schools.
Now, when you take I'm assuming that this program is getting you prepared either to take the praxis or it's kind of like integrated into the coursework, right? Would you be able to, is it specific to your subject matter, or is it kind of a broad, just teaching license that kind of, would you be available to like take the test for other subject areas, or?
Well, the way the rules work right now, and if I can throw this out here, the current licensure rules in Indiana have you earn your license in a single content area.
Okay.
So you're interested in mathematics, I think, right? Okay, so your initial teaching license would probably be in mathematics, and the praxis, or the praxis refers to a content exam that you would take towards the end of your year here, your first year here, as part of your license application. And it's an exam to ensure that you have an appropriate background or content knowledge in your subject area. So you would earn your license in the area of mathematics. Once you have your initial teaching license in that area, under the rules right now in Indiana, if you wanted to add a content area to your teaching license, all you'd have to do is take the praxis exam in that other subject area. That's the way it's working right now, and you heard me say that 3 or 4 times. The rules have changed pretty significantly over the past past 10, 15 years, but under the current licensing rules right now, that's the way it works. So you start with one subject area, and then you can add others afterwards.
Okay, and that would be on my own time and
Yes.
own dime?
Right.
Okay.
The trick is you have to pass your praxis 2 before you can student teach.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's your content area.
Okay, and that would be taken at like the end of the spring?
Oh, I'd
semester?
take it the first summer you're here.
Actually,
Oh,
you
the
could
first
do it,
summer?
during
Okay.
that first summer, or absolutely, you'd have to take it and pass it before the end of the fall semester preceding your student teaching semester.
Okay.
That's one of the prerequisites, having that passing score in the praxis to go into student teaching.
Okay.
So as you've thought about teaching, any apprehensions you have about going into teaching? All those crazy kids out there.
Just like wanting to teach upper level like math and science,
I think it's different with the science schools, like how strong your undergraduate needs to be based on like in education or based in your field, does that make sense? Typically with elementary, it's more like education based undergraduate, and then maybe for upper level, they want more of a stronger content in there you want to teach.
Our
What are your
program
guys' thoughts on that?
tends to enter people into the program that have a really strong content area.
But
So in fact, we're looking for applicants having a bachelor's degree in the content area that they want to teach.
Or engineering that can pull in different
Right, exactly.
ways,
Yep.
different subjects.
But you're not, we're not looking for people who have a bachelor's degree in education, general education. For this program, we're looking for people who have a fairly specific content area that they focused on during their undergraduate studies. Or even, we've had people who come into the program with already a master's degree in a content area as well, too.
We have, now that we have several classes out in the teaching workforce, we now are doing quite a bit of surveying of principals and superintendents. And the feedback we're getting is very, very strong that our fellows, when they are hired, are strong teachers, are strong additions, and oftentimes become leaders in that school very, very quickly. And so we're getting extremely positive feedback. Some superintendents have said, send us as many as you can, and we'll figure out some place to put them, type of thing. So we're getting the kind of really positive feedback that the universities, Purdue, are sending out and preparing folks to be in the classroom ready to go, and they're strong, which is great, which is exactly what we wanted to do, which was the whole concept of this going back now 7 years ago.
Questions?
Can I offer a bit of advice too? John keeps asking, so what about going and working with those crazy kids in the schools? Maybe part of what's inspiring you to think about this program has been some of your own experiences working with young people. Maybe you've been a coach of an athletic team. Maybe you've taught a Sunday school class. Maybe you've had some kind of interactions with young people in that secondary, middle school, high school age range. And maybe part of that is helping you think about, wow, this might be an interesting career path for me to check out. If you haven't had those kinds of experiences, I would encourage you to try to get some of those experiences. Number one, it's been a while since you've been in those age groups, right? And I'm not pointing any fingers here, but to be a good teacher, you have to be able to think like your students, which means to be a good middle school teacher, you have to think like a middle schooler. You have to be able to understand the way that their minds are working, and so that as you're teaching math or science or whatever it might be, you can help hook them into that subject area because you understand what middle school kids are thinking about and some of the questions that they have. And as a creative teacher, you can figure out a way to introduce math content or science content that will help pull them into the content. Likewise with high school age kids. So if it's been a while since you've hung out with middle schoolers or high schoolers, find some opportunities to do that and just kind of, get another reality check. Are these the people that I want to spend the next 3 years working with once you become a full-time teacher? Will that be personally and professionally rewarding for me to work with people in this age group? I think that's another important question to ask yourselves too.
And when you have experience in that way, when you apply and have your materials submitted, indicate that on your vita
Right.
or resume. Show where you've connected with children, no matter Sunday school, coaching, whatever.
Right.
So it's always important to get that dimension from your experiences.
You'll find most kids are great to work with, fun. Other questions, concerns? So a question I'd be thinking of if I were you, what are the two toughest things I'm going to have to deal with? So here's number one. I think all our fellows have had to deal with this a little bit. Is that you're all real bright. And the first thing you're going to figure out is all the kids you're working with, they don't learn like you learn. And so, as David said, you kind of have to get inside their heads and figure out how they learn and teach in ways that they learn. That's a big hump to get over. And then the second hump is, I think, our fellows have had to get over the idea that it's not an 8 to 5 job. It starts before 8 o'clock, and then you come home and do some other things, and then you do some work, teaching work, and then you go back to work the next day. So it's going to be beyond an 8 to 5 job. And you just figure out how to adjust. But it is an adjustment that you'll have to make, because I think figuring out how to manage your personal time and manage your professional time and how to juggle those things, you have to figure out how to do that. So that'll be an early challenge for you. And the third thing is, I say don't take yourself too serious. Go into this thing and have fun. Teaching should be fun. Learning should be fun for kids. Just don't take yourself too serious. Have a lot of fun doing it. Other questions you might have?
Were you guys teachers? You may have showed this at the beginning.
I taught math. I started out teaching math on the west side of Minneapolis. I did that for 6 years, and then I was coaching junior high football, and I lost a football game 56-0. And they came to me and said, "You have administrative talent," and they made me an administrator.
No more coaching.
I was actually a teacher for 4 years, and then decided to go into the business world. And that's actually now I've swung back to the world of education.
What caused you to leave teaching?
Oh, it was a situation where I was ready to start a family at that point in time, and I wanted my wife to be able to stay home, and so I decided that I needed to have a little higher income, and so I went out in that direction. I missed it. In fact, I've often said that it's one of the things that probably brought me back at the tail end of my career, is that I did miss the teaching and the ability to be in front of the kids. So I've done some tutoring. I stayed as a volunteer, helped some kids learn how to read, helped some adults learn how to read, did those kind of things throughout my life. But that's primarily the reason.
I think you heard me mention I got my start in the Peace Corps, teaching overseas. I came back to the States with the expectation that I would continue to teach at the high school level here. Ran into some bureaucratic snafus, and actually during my Peace Corps experience had a chance to work with teacher preparation programs. And realized that I could be a classroom teacher and really enjoy that, working with the high school age kids, or I could also help prepare the teachers who were going to go into those high school classrooms, kind of a ripple effect sort of a thing. And through my experiences with the Peace Corps, realized that I also really enjoyed working with the university age people, and that led me to ultimately get my master's and PhD, and led me to the position here where I'm involved in teacher preparation here at Purdue. So I'm still a teacher, and at Purdue I still teach science, and I also teach education classes too. So I haven't left it. I'm just working with a slightly different age group here.
Very cool.
Other question?
In the application for the fellowship, I've just started looking at it, and there is a section that asks that you list up to 3 schools that you're interested in, as well as the areas of study, whether it be math, science, biology, physics, chemistry, or so on and so forth. I found it interesting that it allowed you to pick more than one area of interest. Can you speak to how that shapes your admission as a fellow? Are you better off focusing on one particular area, or broadening your interest in picking multiple areas?
Well, part of the answer goes back to what I had said earlier about when you become licensed here in Indiana, it's in one subject area initially. Someone like yourself with an engineering background, you won't be teaching engineering classes necessarily at the high school level. So with your background, not only in mathematics, but in the various sciences, I think that's to allow you some flexibility to figure out, could you teach in more than one subject area? So I really think that's part of the intent, and I would imagine from Woodrow Wilson's perspective, allowing people who have a variety of professional and educational experiences to still apply and
Right.
be eligible for different programs.
That's it exactly, and for example, if you would put technology as maybe the area that you wanted to focus on, well, we have some universities that really focus on, and we might want to talk to you about, looking at that university for technology. So it's just, it's really trying to just understand you a little better, trying to make sure that you're the right fit and be able to offer that advice.
Other thoughts? Doesn't even have to be a question, just could be a comment.
Have you had a chance, have you been able to get on the website? I know we showed Candace at the beginning, but if you want to meet David and several others, if you haven't had a chance to go on the website, Candace is a Purdue alum and gives a little bit of a talk about her experience and why she's teaching and what has driven her. She's a career changer. But you'll meet you can meet them now on the website. I think we've done a better job on our website. I think Purdue was better than we were. I think we're trying to catch up to the Purdues of the world and having a much better active website so that you can meet some of the fellows, learn a little bit more about the program, and hear their stories, because I think that is an important piece. I talked earlier about that, but just getting a chance to meet potentially who are part of your family. It's the other thing probably didn't talk about is during the application process, there is you will be screened. Depending upon the year, it's 1 out of 3. Some years it's been 1 out of 4 have been selected to come into the program. So you go through a very serious interviewing process. You will be asked to prepare and present a lesson plan. You will be asked to go through what I would consider a rigorous process during your interviewing process to become a fellow. So it's an experience that I think you'd find from some of the fellows. They would tell you I think it was challenging but invigorating.
Any other thoughts? The thing I feel really proud about Purdue is I think you'll find the whole staff here is here to help you. Now, you do the work, but we're here to help you. We're here to guide you. But none of us will do the work for you. You have to do that. And the reason for that is when you start applying for jobs and you look at what people are looking for, they're looking for all those things that we can't teach you. They're looking for hard workers. They're looking for honest people. Looking for some creativity. They're looking for people that like kids. I know that's a minor issue when you hire a teacher, but they really are looking for people that really like kids and enjoy being around kids. Those kind of things. I can't teach you that. You either bring that to the table or you don't. So that's something you have to think about. But again, this staff is really good about that. They're here to help you. We don't want you to fail. I think we've had some that have because they chose to, but it's not because we gave up on it. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah, the beauty of it is you're not a guinea pig. This is the 6th class, and Purdue knows what they're doing.
Well, we'll be here for a little bit. If you did not sign in, there is a sign-in sheet. There's some snacks over here in the room. We don't want you to go away starved. So get into that. We're here to answer your questions while you're here. So, again, thank you very much for coming.
Yes,
We're
thank you.
glad to have you. It's been a good turnout.
That was a good turnout.